What's up, real estate agents? If you want to know how to go from zero to absolutely dominating in real estate, and not only that, but effectively break into the luxury space and become a top agent in your city from nothing, this is the episode for you. I get the pleasure of sitting down with Nick Neacsu, one of the top luxury real estate agents in West Vancouver, who's selling up to $9 million properties on a consistent basis. I dive deep into how Nick built his business, how he broke into the luxury space, and he gives you so many golden nuggets and things that you can implement into your real estate business today in order to take it to the next level. Nick gives away so many tips, tricks, and secrets on how he built such a scalable business. So make sure you have a pen, paper, and some notes so that you can start taking action on your business as well. So without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Nick Neacsu. All right, guys, one thing that I have to say before we dive into this episode is that Nick was experiencing a little bit of trouble with some of his internet connections. So there are some spots where it slows down a little bit, but don't let that stop you. If you stay to the end, there are certain things that Nick is going to talk to you about that are going to absolutely change your real estate business and take it to new heights. I can't believe some of the inside knowledge that he drops for us. So make sure you don't let some of the glitches deter you, because again, this is going to be an episode that's going to give you a new perspective on breaking into the luxury space and scaling your business to the point you've always dreamed of. So without further ado, let's dive into it and chat with Nick. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. And today I've got on an extremely special guest that I've been wanting to get on here for quite some time. So we've got the pleasure and honor to have on Nick Neacsu from Vancouver, one of the top luxury agents. And I cannot wait for this conversation because he's going to drop some tips and tricks and secrets on luxury real estate. So Nick, welcome to the show, my friend.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the invite on the show. Much appreciated.
Definitely, man. Of course. So, as I mentioned, and we talked off camera a bit, and what a lot of you guys who are watching now have been asking me is so many different things about breaking into the luxury space. It's a very interesting spot to be in. Everybody likes the sexy, $1 million listings and stuff like that. But there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people struggle with breaking into the market, and there's a lot of things that people might just not understand. So before we get into it, I want Nick to give a brief introduction as to, where he come from, because he came from the bottom, and it's so exciting to see somebody that started from nothing, truly started from zero, and built his way up to the name that he now has. So Nick, why don't you give yourself just, a brief rundown as to who you are, where you came from, and what you're up to.
Yeah. So, sort of in a nutshell. So I went to school in the U.S. I graduated with a degree in marketing. I played soccer in the U.S. So I have this natural competitive discipline personality, and it's sort of ingrained in my internal computer, I guess you could say. I'm very analytical. I was an introvert my whole life. I ended up being At university, I ended up joining a development company in Victoria. I worked I worked in the marketing department, and I really wanted to get into the development aspect. So I actually taught myself how to build houses just by asking questions. So I ended up being a junior development manager, even though I was not qualified for the job, but I made it work, and I was actually quite successful over there. But then, I had some friends and some influencers that were in real estate, or as realtors, and something I was really interested in. I'm from Vancouver, and I thought the only way of me getting back to Vancouver, it was going down that avenue, because I didn't really want to start from the bottom again at a big development company as an analyst and working my way up. Came back with these dreams, like, I knew everything in real estate, I knew all about it. It'll be easy for me to get into sales. I would say, I had a decent amount of savings and about 30 grand, and I blew through that in the first 6 months of real estate. And lost my relationship, became dead broke, and moved home. At 31 years old, I had nothing. So at that point, and I was at my brokerage, Angell Hasman Associates. And I had nothing to lose, so I kept on working hard, door knocking like crazy, open houses like you wouldn't believe, like 4 or 5 days a week of open houses during the week, just trying to. Now DJ Denner, we're both in the same boat, struggling. It took us about 2 years to sort of get off our feet in this business. And remember, it's kind of like if you looked at West Vancouver real estate, it's kind of like the NHL of real estate. It's you're trying to play on the first line where we're barely making the team, and we're surrounded with people making ridiculous amount of money and selling a ridiculous amount of real estate, and you can barely eat afford craft dinner. So, but it was inspirational because they all came from nothing as well. So we knew if we put in our time, we put in our, we were strategic about it, that we could do this. And eventually we did break through. We hit that tipping point effectively, where we finally realized that we could actually do this. But it's not easy, but nothing is, and it doesn't matter what market you're in. You could be in a volume market with, right, or you could be in the market that I'm in, where it was way less volume but much bigger price points. It all takes the same amount of effort. It doesn't matter. I just happen to be inspired by working with the big properties, and it has nothing to really do with wanting that lifestyle or being showy about it. It has to do with I'm a problem solver. It's like a very tough equation. Putting a deal like putting some deals together, 5, 6, $15 million deals together, it can take months, and it can and to be able to solve that problem it's a huge sense of accomplishment. And I think keeping that price point is very challenging. And me being very competitive, I would like to push myself to show myself that I can actually do it. And then with the team that we have now at DJ, I have this team of 3 agents underneath of us, plus our like Jack and my team, do a $6.5 million deal in his first year. It's ridiculous. Like my first deal was $230,000.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's there is a secret sauce that seems to work. I don't quite understand the full formula yet, but we're doing something right, and we're able to emulate it with the people that we mentor and coach on our team. So yeah, hopefully we can sort of pull some of the ingredients out of that secret sauce in this interview.
Definitely, man. Well, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that I'd love to touch on, and the two of them is door knocking and your analytical perspective. Because for me, I've got an engineering background, and I found that when I got into real estate, having not just the credibility of degrees and formal education, but being able to analyze real estate from a very numeric and analytical perspective when a lot of people don't, I found really helped me. And a situation that actually was quite unique to me is whenever I listed a $15 million house in my first year, it was the most expensive in my city. And the owners were asking me, why do I just have full-time realtor in my email signature? Why don't I have my degrees listed in there? Because they're big oil and gas guys. And ever since putting my degrees in my e-signature, it's given me a different level of credibility from reaching out to clients and cold leads and stuff like that. So before we dive into the luxury space, why don't you talk first about, if that analytical perspective has helped you and analyzing deals from a numeric perspective instead of just going by gut feel?
Okay, well, any degree possible. I have a business science degree in marketing. I didn't even think I would, like, in my 4th year, I looked at my counselor told me, like, you know what, you actually qualify for this unique degree because all my electives were in statistics, not in like arts. So I enjoyed that, right? And I think, I would think I use about 20% of my degree in my business, and the ability to analyze statistics is one of them, but not overanalyze. The other part of it is public speaking. Every single course I took at university was public speaking. So, the fear of public speaking, was huge for me. I was such a super introvert in university, and now not as much. I'm in the middle, but I had to really force myself to break through that. And I credit that to my degree because it forced me to speak in front of the class. And public speaking is one of the most important, well, it is probably one of the most important aspects of sales, because if you can have all the knowledge behind you, but if you don't know how to portray that knowledge in an effective way, it has to be effective being the key point, then you're not going to sell anything. So you have to be able to convey that information as value, and it can't be cheesy. It can't be a used car salesman. You have to show value and confidence in what you're saying, and you have to believe in it too. Right.
100%.
So yeah, I would say it, on the flip side, my business partner, DJ Denner, he isn't analytical. He's emotional. His idea is the power of the like. He has a likability to him. It's like everybody likes him when they meet him, so they trust him in that aspect. But he can back it up with the knowledge too. So his approach is a little bit different. So you can be different. You can be a different personality and be very successful in this business. But don't take your strengths and build your business around that strength. Don't try to be somebody who you're not.
100%, man. I completely agree with that. The one thing now that I really want to touch on, because I love that you alluded to door knocking, because that's how I got all of my first listings and how I built my business, is how does somebody, break into the luxury space? Because that's one of the most common questions I get on a weekly basis is, Mike, how do I get my first luxury listing? How do I break into the luxury space? And, I'm excited to hear what you say, because, I'll throw in my 2 cents after in terms of, the fact that I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. But I'd love to hear your advice in terms of a new agent or an agent that's only been doing kind of middle of the pack, lower price homes and wants to break into that luxury space for whatever the reason might be.
Yeah. Okay. There's a few comments for that. One, why are you intimidated by luxury real estate? What is luxury real estate? I tell you, a $3 million house in Vancouver is way different than a $3 million house in Calgary, right? We're talking a piece of dirt versus a mansion. So is it the price point? Is it the zeros? Forget about the people that we're working with, right? So I find it actually more difficult to work with a first-time home buyer than to work with a $10 million buyer. You're working with a scared cat, right? An injured chihuahua. That's what a first-time buyer feels like, because you're skittish, right? A $10 million buyer knows exactly what they're looking for, and your job is to find it and put that deal together professionally. So I think the $10 million, not like a non-strata, is easier than a strata first-time home buyer. So if you take away the zeros, you're just working with people, right? Just bigger numbers, right? There is more at stake. There is more risk. Then you have to back it up with your knowledge. The people that can afford those big houses are usually executives, entrepreneurs. They're smart people, but they're still looking for expertise, because the people who I work with aren't good at real estate, at least for the most part. I am their expert. So be the expert, know your market, know your niche, and be able to out-talk your clients, or outsmart your clients in terms of the knowledge base that you have, because that's why they're hiring you. So you have to understand your numbers and understand your market completely, and understand the product that you're selling, and be honest. You screw one person in that 1%, everybody finds out about it. So you have to be your integrity level has to be up here, and don't even think about the paycheck. Just do the job well, and people will trust you. So breaking into that market, there's two different ways, two different avenues. One's a buyer agent, one's a listing agent. If you're starting off as a new agent, you're going to be a buyer's agent regardless, because you have some whales and heavy hitters that will have spent millions of dollars on their own brand, that will take you out every single time in a listing presentation. So you're going to have to start off by being a buyer's agent. Doesn't mean you can't list, but we'll get to that later. So you're probably what you're doing a lot of open houses. You're trying to meet as many people as possible and trying to label yourself as a neighborhood expert. People just want to know that you know the area, and you can listen to what their needs and wants are, and you can get them into those properties, right? And what I like to do is this, and this is what helped me for my open houses. I like to print out my favorite top 10 listings in all of West Vancouver within the same price range of the house that I'm doing the open for, like somebody else's open house. and say, you know what, if this isn't the house for you, I have 9 more options that I really love. And they're not open today, and they're hardly ever open, but with my relationship with that agent, I can book you an exclusive private showing in the next few days. Would you be interested? Of course people want to, right? If they're intrigued about the piece of paper, like I have a listing right here, if they're intrigued about this piece of paper and they want to see this house, they're going to ask you to get into that house because you're the solution to their problem. The problem is that they can't get access.
Definitely.
Right? And then you line up more houses for that tour. And next thing you know, you're their agent by implied agency, I guess you could say. And you're helping them, and they're going to feel an obligation to use you because you've invested your time and energy into them. And that's how you build that in. That's how it's a win-win in that point. If you want to become a listing agent in a luxury market, I would suggest finding yourself a mentor or a partner. For me, I leverage is key for building any type of business. I leveraged Malcolm Hasman. He was he is one of the top luxury agents here, probably in all Canada. He has sold the biggest condo and the biggest home in Canada, $54 million house in the Vancouver West, and then the Pac Rim penthouse for $24 million. So I used his brand, the Door Knock.
Wow.
Yeah. So I door knocked the co-founder of EA Sports' house without even knowing it, and got his listing for $8,998. That's $9 million. I was green first 2 years. I had nothing, and I door knocked that property. We got the listing. We sold it. So leveraging somebody else's success is a very good way to get listings. And you can make a deal with that person as well, like I did. I said to Malcolm, if I get the listing, I have no money. If I get the listing, I'll bring you in. You get 50% of the paycheck. I'll do all the work, but you pay for the marketing. It's like, that's a done deal.
Yeah.
I'll do that deal all day long. You want to door knock with my brand? I'll do that deal all day long, right? And then I'll close it for you. So it's a win-win situation, right? You're not using anybody. It's a reciprocal relationship.
Definitely.
That is probably the easiest way to get a luxury listing, is by leveraging somebody in your office that is in that market.
Certainly. I find even with, let's say you're a solo agent or you don't have a big office or whatever the situation is, I find it's even advantageous to leverage your brokerage, because if your brokerage has done luxury space and things like that, you are able to leverage that door knocking. And that's exactly what I did when I first started door knocking. Is I had no business, but you can leverage the power of other people's stats. And then again, it gives you a bit more credibility as a new agent and somebody coming into the space trying to break into it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can spin stats any way you want, and that's the beauty about stats. You can make it look like you're the number one brokerage in all of the nation, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we take what I would do anyways. I would take a price range, just to say it's like $6 to $8 million, and I found an interesting stat where Angell Hasman Associates was involved in 50% of the transactions between I'd say June and August, between that price range. And we only have 50 agents, whereas other brokerages have 300-400 agents. We can say with 50 agents, we represented 6 deals between $6 and $8 million amongst Angell Hasman Associates. We are the experts, and the numbers don't lie. That's a powerful statement. And why wouldn't you want to use us when we are so successful? Right?
100%.
That success is going to translate to you. We know what we're doing. We're the experts. So it's using stats like that without being too egotistic, and showing that your service to them and your value to them is there, and you have proven results. That's the beauty about you working with a good brokerage.
100%, man. I love that. On the note of marketing, that's something that I'd love to get into, because you alluded to the fact that Malcolm helped with marketing, and I've seen Malcolm's marketing. He's very strong, and a lot of people again ask me, how do you market? Let's say you're a brand new agent, or you're an early on agent, and you get your first luxury listing. How do you market that? What's different than your average price point home. You know, we can touch into, you know, how we've both leveraged cars for better or whatever the situation is. But I'd love to tap into that, because I know some people look at the cars as bad optics. I know I look at it because it's a passion of mine and I leverage it because it's part of my community. So for you, what's your advice for somebody that's just getting rolling in the luxury space and they're looking for some tips on how to properly market a property so that the marketing is a good reflection of the price point?
Well, you know, the number one is the photos. The photos are the most important part of marketing. So I would, you know, for us, even now, we're always at our photo shoots. We don't let the photographer go by himself. It's myself, DJ, that are always there. We're picking the shots that we feel are going to be the hero shots for the property. So, you know, it will, if it's in a newspaper ad, or if it's on an Instagram post, or if it's on the MLS, whatever picture shows up first has to be striking. Because if it's a terrible photo, it's unfortunate people will just skip to the next one, right? We got to make sure that that first photo is eye-catching.
Yeah.
Okay. Other ways to market really well is just like, you know, I don't know what it's like in Alberta right now, but in British Columbia, we have new rules about cooperation. So we are not allowed to. There's no limited dual agency in Vancouver or British Columbia. It's gone. Right. Yeah. So the power of networking with your other agents is very important. So e-blast or social media posts about real estate. I'm going to tell you, you know, it's like we have decent followings, but I use it to leverage my network. So I have a lot of realtors follow me, and I like that because when I post, they DM me saying, "Where is this house? Can I show it this time?" So that adds, so when I say I have a large social media following, the chances of me getting a direct buyer off that is very slim. But for me, exposing it as another layer to other agents that may have missed it on their notifications or don't have a notification set to West Vancouver, you know, I do get a lot of interest that way in all price points. Another way to market really well is, you know, open houses. I mean, they work. Especially like people might think in the high end, who's going to walk in and buy a $6-7 million house? We've done it so many times.
Yeah,
I've sold a $7 million house on open house 3 or 4 times because people who are really busy batch their time, and they walk in around open houses. We sold a house to a German fellow who walked into it was a beautiful house. We were listed at 7.5. And he wasn't even expecting to buy a house. He walked in, fell in love with it, he bought it. Called his agent was in Hawaii, he goes, "I want to place an offer." And next day we got an offer. It was crazy. But he wouldn't have come in unless the open house sign was there.
Yeah. It
worked. They work. And it's how you host your open houses as well. You want to, if it's a luxury home, especially, it has to have that experience. So all the lights are on, the music's going. You know, everything's, you know, the house is cooled down if it's too hot. The house is warmed up if it's too cold. Your feature sheets are laid out really nicely. You have your sign-in sheet. It's like it is a production. You have, you know, all your open house signs are clean. You know, everything has to be perfect for that because it's about the experience. And you have to have your presentation. You know, if people walk in, you greet them, you walk them through the house. I do that all the time. I'm never on my laptop. Oh, just go have a look at the house. Let me know if you have any questions. I engage because you're there to sell the house. And if not, you're there to pick up the client.
Big time.
It's, you know, it's not just one thing. It's a combination of everything that creates a, I guess you can call that luxury experience. I call it more of a professional experience.
Yeah.
Right. What's luxury? Like that's what I asked you that question. What is luxury? Is it zeros? It's definitely not zeros. I think luxury is a service.
Big time, man. You know, there's a couple of things that I love that you mentioned it is, you know, a lot of people, again, are wondering if their social media following should only be local people. And I always tell people, they're saying, "Mike, you know, I'm growing my following, but it's all these realtors that are following me. How is that advantageous?" Well, realtors are the people that can engage with your content because they relate to your industry more so than any other one, any other people. So the fact that you say that helps your business, I think is really powerful for people to understand who lack that understanding of the fact that, you're not very likely to be posting a new listing and then get a flock of local people looking to buy it on Instagram. But the fact that you can get the exposure, not only, for me, and I'm sure you had this as well, is we have agents that are in other states, other provinces. So when you are dealing with luxury, where maybe you are looking at out of town buyers, it is a good opportunity for these external agents to see it who might not otherwise be browsing your local MLS.
It's exactly it. I do believe that the way of the future is online, and it is. We're here now. Your website is a business card. Your social media is a business card. I don't be posting drinking cans and all that. If you have that, clear it off. You're a professional now in the industry, right? So you got to maintain yourself, and I think people like to know a little bit of your personal life as well. So if you like to hike, or if you have a dog, or people relate to you, and they may want to work with you. So and the other side of it is you will build your business. You will get cold leads, or actually warm leads that are unrepresented off of social media. You will. I experienced that. And a lot of realtors, a lot of business people follow you, right? So it's not a gloat. I'm not showing off. This is a true story. And Adrian is the guy who contacted me, a Chinese guy. He contacted me, I think it was in 2015, and he contacted me. He's like, "Hey, I follow you on social media. I really like what you're doing. My parents are flying in from China. We're looking to buy a house." I closed a $6 million house off of a DM.
Wow.
Yeah, we went on tour and all that. They bought a $6 million house off me. That's an $80,000 commission. And I'm like, holy shit. Instagram is actually converted. Not just converted. For me, it was a lottery. It's huge. And it cost me nothing except for time. And it was effective. Between DJ and I, we've closed a lot of deals off, leads off Instagram. That's after years and years of investment into our brand, but still, it's like a snowball effect. You got to get it started, and once it gets going, it's its own little machine. It's its own little, it grows into its for what it is. For DJ, it's a very luxurious, methodical experience. For me, it's just who I am. If you like me, work with me. If not, then go work with somebody else. There's lots of business for everybody, right?
I think that's an amazing way to look at Instagram, because again, Instagram has been one of my fortes, and I have got a ton of listings and buyers from Instagram simply because of the fact, and you just alluded to this, is that when you start to become raw and transparent and show yourself on Instagram, it gives people a very good opportunity to get to know the real you. And as you become consistent with making it that true business card that's on social media, they get an insight as to whether they like you or they don't. And as they become part of your journey, oftentimes you're the agent that's top of mind, because when you're consistent with it, you're going to be showing up, and they start to get excited about what's next coming from Nick. And you've automatically built a bit of a relationship with them before even meeting. And I find that those are some of the best leads, because they already feel like they know you, and it makes that interaction and that transaction so much more seamless.
I agree. End of the day, we're just working with people.
Yeah.
And I have high integrity standards. I'm happy to show people what I do throughout the day. I work really hard, so I post a lot of work stuff on my Instagram, but I'm okay with that. I love it. I love what I do, and I'm more than happy to share that. And I know that my clients who entrust me with their top assets they like seeing that I'm working hard.
Yeah.
And it's not because I have to, it's because I want to.
100%.
Why not toot your own horn a little bit?
Exactly, man. On the note of getting your business, there's one thing that I really want to touch on as well, which is misconceptions in real estate. Because I love, earlier in this discussion, you mentioned door knocking. And I find a lot of people are, again, asking me, Mike, can you does door knocking work on $1 million listings? Or, there's some things that people are scared about. Is it harder dealing with $1 million listings? It's hard. Are the people, not as nice? What is it like? So why don't you touch on a couple misconceptions that come into it, whether it be, with door knocking, prospecting, open houses, or even just the clients in general?
Well, it depends on your approach, right? So if you're door knocking, and I honestly, because it's never worked for me, and I've tried it, you're looking to sell.
Yeah.
You can sell a dog house, with that approach, right? There's no value there whatsoever. Door knocking with purpose and door knocking with value is how you do it. And I'll give you an example. Do you know Vancouver? You know Vancouver. You know Pitt Meadows, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, at year 2, there's an agent in our office that has a big Chinese client looking for a farm, right? In Pitt Meadows. And I'm like, I will go anywhere to do a deal, right? I'm hungry. Let's do it. So both DG and I, we go to Pitt Meadows and we knock it because we have a buyer. So we have value, right? And we will represent the seller and she'll represent the buyer. We ended up selling 4 farms off that exercise. We got 4 listings in 3 weeks, and we door knocked everything. We sold, not only that, we sold at the time the biggest MLS sale ever in Pitt Meadows for $4.5 million.
Wow.
Just off door knocking. In suits. You know what the differentiator was? We were in suits. Nobody ever door knocks with suits in Port or in Pitt Meadows. It was 2 guys with suits and with a big buyer. And that buyer ended up buying a $2.5 million property. But what we did was we secured exclusive listings of these other properties that wanted to sell. We had about 15 properties that we could have sold. There were so many people who wanted to sell. And we ended up putting together 3 other deals with other agents in Pitt Meadows, properties that were not on the market before. And we put them on the market. So it was kind of a neat experience. But we knocked with value. In West Vancouver, there's different ways to do it. One is a soft knock. It's like for us, like we just listed a property down the street, and it's an invitation to an open house.
Yeah,
it put you in front of it. It's not an intrusive knock. Or when we do have a real buyer, we'll go knock doors, and people love it when you compliment them, their houses. People have huge pride of ownership. So if you knock on somebody's house and say, listen, my client's looking for a house like this. You have such a beautiful house. I understand that you probably don't want to sell, but if there ever was a possibility that you're thinking about selling, I think your house is beautiful. And if not, then can I at least have a look, because I love real estate? You'll get in the door 100% of the time with that line.
Yeah.
And because most people will say no to selling right away, but once you start having a conversation, they might open up and say, you know what, we would consider the possibility. And that's what it happens. When you go into like a Future Shop, or when Future Shop was there, when on commercial, or when they were doing when they're on commission, like commission staff, somebody walks up to you and you're definitely a buyer for something. You need help? No, I'm okay. It's the same mentality when you door knock. You're going to get rejected right away. So you have to figure out ways to get around that rejection, by keeping the questions open-ended. Right? It's just it's basic sales, but be creative, like be positive. Show interest in the property, like show excitement. If you have excitement and if enthusiasm, get energy, you're going to make a connection.
Definitely. I think, coming from the value perspective is one of the biggest things that real estate agents mess up when they're door knocking, is the fact that they do go in with that pitch of, are you looking to sell? And they come from a soliciting perspective. So that's how it's perceived as, is if you go in with that mentality, and also if you feel like you're going in and you're going to be soliciting people, that's how you're going to be perceived. But if you go in with the mentality of providing value and you come with that first, then oftentimes you're going to be received as somebody providing value. And I love the fact that you mentioned that people notice that you were excited. Because when I was door knocking, I always had the biggest smile on my face and I was dressed the part, and people actually saw that I was enjoying what I was doing, and it made the conversations much more engaging and friendly because they knew I wasn't out there hating my life just trying to scoop up the next deal. I was actually out there enjoying my business, trying to provide value to the community. And I think that's a game-changing shift and perspective that so many people fall short on.
I agree. And we tell our team this: when you door knock, what's the value you're adding? It's all about value.
Yeah.
The whole business is about value. Like, what's the value that you're adding when you knock? What's the purpose of that knock? And it can't be, you're looking to sell. It has to be way more than that. Another trick for a strategy for young agents is that leverage your brokerage. A just sold knock is a very powerful knock as well. I just want to let you know before the sold signs up, before it's reported, just want to let you know that we sold the house down the street and this is what we sold for. It's pretty exciting for you. You will get, out of 20 knocks, you will get at least one appointment out of that. You should anyways, if you're providing value. There's one person that will want to at least want an evaluation on their house, and that's then they're considering selling. They may not sell in 6 months, but they may sell in a year or two. And that's going to be right in your funnel. That's going to be right in your database. And you're going to follow up and follow up and follow up. And you're going to maintain that client, because one day, if you maintain them well enough, they will transact with you.
100%. I think there's two things that we need to pull from that. And for the viewers, if you didn't catch this, I need to reiterate this. The first thing is, what Nick's saying is about leveraging a sold listing. The wrong way to do that is to knock and say, hey, a listing down the street just sold. Are you interested in selling? The right way to do that is say, a property down the street just sold. Are you interested in how that's going to impact the value of your house? Coming from a perspective of providing value. And again, as soon as you ask somebody if they're looking to sell, you're going to get the roadblock and you're done, and you just ruin your chances to open up that conversation. But again, when you come from the perspective of trying to provide them with one little ounce of value that can come from that piece of leverage that happened down the street, that's when you're going to get the results. And then, the next thing, and Nick, I'm sure you can touch on this too, is the power of follow-up. Because I find, again, so many people knock and they knock 100 doors and they say they got 4 contacts and they call them and they get no results and they're in the trash can. And they forget about it. And I had a call, a couple of weeks ago with an ISA who's really strong down in Chicago. And he was saying that based on his statistics, he closes the most amount of deals after the 7th touch point. So if you stop at 5 touch points, the agent that gets in front of them on the 6th or 7th, when you fall short, that's the agent that's going to get the business. So it's important to leverage your business, but also create a follow-up plan that's going to keep you top of mind as time goes on.
One of the good follow-ups that we use, especially when we're young agents in our career, was the handwritten note, handwritten card. Just say it was very nice talking to you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Thank you so much for being respectful for me. And just write a really nice personal note and just mail it to them, right? And then if you do get the appointment, and what we used to do, and we still bring gifts, but we used to bring a pie.
Awesome.
Just bring a pie because it's memorable. Because gosh, these guys, they were dressed in suits and they brought a pie to, just for an evaluation. We're not even looking to sell. It's like, people will talk about that. Yeah. It's a positive note, right? Before anybody knew our names in West Vancouver, they knew us for the guys that wore suits. Nobody wore suits when we started, but we suited up every single day. And every time we were in West Vancouver, we were in a suit. And everybody knew us, the guys in the suits, and eventually people knew our names. But we differentiated ourselves based on what we look like. And then now all the top agents have to wear suits because of us. Because it's pretty funny actually how that sort of changed the market a little bit. So you just have to be just be creative, be enthusiastic, be professional, and you can get the appointments, but back it up as well. Back it up with a killer knowledge presentation that is
100%.
That is communicated effectively. You'll be surprised. Your competition, is our agents are seasoned, like 30, 35 years in the business. They haven't evolved yet, and they may not even have to. But if you can step it up a little bit, you've got a little bit of an edge already.
I like that because, as a new agent, you have so much opportunity to learn the new, whatever's trending and relevant in technology. And some agents that have been in the industry for 20 years or so, they might have 20 years experience, but sometimes they're repeating, their first 5 years for 20 years, and they're not evolving, they're not leveling up their game, and they're not finding new ways to get exposure and homes sold for more money in less time. So I think that's an important, important thing to touch on. And again, you alluded to it as well, Nick, is being a knowledge source. Because if you know and you can answer any question about the area, about the type of property, and you don't, fumble your words and you're not looking for the answers, if you can become a resource hub to buyers and sellers, you're going to be seen as that much more valuable to anybody in the real estate industry, right?
And that's right. And then you know what? You're going to come across agents that you're competing against, like big agents. They have 35, 40 listings, and you're going to be like, well, how the heck do I compete with that? And this is a secret. Well, not a secret. This is a script, and scripts do work really well, but please adapt them to your own personality.
Of course,
I did. But you compete. When I was starting off, I would compete against an agent that was huge, and I would say, would you? I understand they have 35 listings, but what do you think that they can actually give you the attention that you need with 35 listings? For me, if I don't sell your house, I can't eat next week, right? So, do you think that I have much more investment in this property? I have much more at stake in this property than my competition. I will do everything in my power to sell this property. I will work 24/7, 7 days, 7 days a week to get this deal closed. I don't have the luxury of taking vacations and not doing open houses on the weekend. For me, to build my career, to build my legacy, I need to sell your house. It's huge. It's like
big time.
It's for the big agent. They don't have to. Their life doesn't change if they don't sell that house, but mine will.
100%, man. I love that. I've used that too, and it's so powerful when you're going up against the big dogs as a young gunner or somebody that's new in the industry. Now the last thing that I really want to touch on, and I wasn't expecting to do this, but off camera before we got into this conversation, you were talking about how the market's shifting in Vancouver because all things aside, we know that the price point there is very attractive. We know that there was a couple strong years in Vancouver, so. Sometimes people even discredit some of the luxury agents in Vancouver, thinking it's just a walk in the park as the price point is so good and there's so many sales and all this kind of nonsense. But you're starting to see a bit of a downturn. And you were saying that, you guys are still doing some serious volume despite the shift in the market. And I know that a lot of other, cities, provinces, states are going to be, if they're not already, they're going to be seeing a shift. So I'd love to end things off with your 2 cents on what to do when there's a shift in the economy, when things, might not be as, systematic and coming your way. What happens when things start to get a little bit harder? How do you maintain your business? But not just that, you're flourishing in this market. So what's your advice to somebody that's going through a shift and wants to scale and not just plateau?
Well, innovation is how you scale, right? Shifting your mindset a little bit will help. But I'm looking at my board right now, and let's see, we were at 108 million last year in sales, and we're at as of yesterday 63 million in sales this year, right? Pretty good. We haven't really skipped a beat in that sense, but we've worked 3 times as hard. So, it is a lot more effort to achieve the results we did last year, and it's a way more effort to try to achieve the results we did in 2016. But the market is shifting, and you have to understand why it's shifting. You have to understand, how to advise your clients, right? You got to think ahead. You got to almost anticipate where the market's going. So we've got our clients out of properties this year that are already down 10%. It's almost like a stock. And at the time it was, they wanted more, but hindsight's 2020, and they're so happy now, right? But you have to really be the expert. You have to really understand trends. You have to know why the market's being affected the way it is. in Vancouver, we have so many different taxes that are now implemented by the NDP. Um, you know, for our business, we used to have a lot of buyers from Iran, and their currency has devalued to 15-fold since the sanctions from the U.S. The Chinese money that was flowing into Canada, those programs have changed now. Both Canadian and mainland Chinese programs have changed. So that's a little bit more difficult. The lending world is way different too. So your lending networks have to be strong. Private lending, especially our private lending networks are stronger than ever. And anticipating, potential new shifts in the market, emerging money from cannabis is huge. I've done a deal this year from a newly rich guy in cannabis, and trying to get into that network. And with the Hong Kong issue now, we're starting to see, talking to friends that are in the shipping business, where they're seeing, asking the right questions. We're seeing containers full of personal items from Hong Kong that arrived, 2 weeks ago, that were probably shipped 6 weeks ago, and they're expats, so they are residents of Canada already, and they're bringing their wealth back to Canada because it's safe. Vancouver is one of the spots they're going to land. Toronto's another. They're going to land as well.
Yeah.
So anticipating those types of markets, understanding the condo market downtown, where my insiders that I know in commercial real estate understand that Microsoft and Apple have leased a whole millions of square feet of pre-sale in Vancouver. That's going to drive. That's 20,000 new jobs in the next 2 years. It's going to drive the under $1 million condo market up, because they need the rent. They can't buy because of the foreign buyer's tax, but they're going to sure rent, right? So understanding all different types of markets in the industry, you'll become the industry leader, and you will outperform your competition if you know this information, and that can apply to any market. It can be Calgary, Edmonton, micro markets in BC, wherever. There's always an edge that you can have on your competition. It's going to be because you're fully invested in what you do, and that's because you want to give proper advice to your clients.
I couldn't agree more. The fact that you touched on, when the market's shifting, whether it be up, down, sideways, wherever it's going, just finding a perspective to leverage and a good story that you can tell your clients. Even if all else is bad, there's always a good opportunity in any market. And if you can find a way to identify that opportunity and pitch it to people and explain why it's a good opportunity, I think you're always going to find a way to flourish. And the fact that you are looking at it from so many different perspectives and always trying to have a foresight and looking at trends, I think that's incredibly important, as well as just overall innovation. Because if the market is slower and you might have a bit more time per se, then find ways to innovate yourself, revise your business perspective, and find new ways to market yourself and get creative, because there's no better time to do that. Because, as you know very well, when things do come back, you want to be the one that's at the top of the game. And it's all coming from continuing to better yourself regardless of where the market's going.
Well, and that's right. And being that realtor that says, don't worry, it's going to get better, or I feel it's going to get better. There's
not the way.
There's nothing that indicates that it'll get better in a short term anyways. And being that realtor that, and if you're a realtor, everybody asks you every time you go for dinner, or you're for drinks, or you're playing tennis or whatever, or golf. So what do you think about the market?
Yeah, exactly.
Common thing that people are like, oh my gosh. So, but if you can immediately give value there, or even a little bit of value, people will be intrigued, and they'll consider you an expert, and they'll want to ask you more. When they're really thinking about selling or buying, they'll approach you first. And that might be in 2 years, it might be in 4 years, but you left an impact.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time, man. Well, Nick, man, I can't thank you enough. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but is there any last words that you have for any new agent that's getting started today, in order to start from zero like you did, all the way to the point where, you're evidently crushing it?
Well, like behind you, dream big for sure. And be ready to hustle.
Yeah.
And hustle is unprogram yourself from 9 to 5. There's no such thing as 9 to 5. It's all the time. Real estate is going to be ingrained into your DNA. And there is no off switch, right? You're available, you're available whenever it takes. If you want to do the big deals, if you want to work with, world travelers, business people, you have to be able to do a deal at 3 a.m. It's just you're always on. You have to love it. If you don't love it, then don't do it. But if you love it, then you could succeed so much. And don't complain. Don't be a complainer, please. People complain all the time. Nobody wants to hear about it. Just focus on your world and do what you do best. And that's meeting people, giving value, and doing deals.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Nick, thank you so much for coming on. As you guys can see, there's so many golden nuggets that you can take away from this conversation from various perspectives of different market shifts, how to find creative ways to give value, and an overall business hustle that can make you thrive in any single market. So I'm going to leave all of Nick's contact info below in terms of his social media platforms, his website. Make sure you guys check him out and make sure you follow him because he's on the rise still to this day. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Nick, thanks again. We're signing off here. Comment below what your favorite takeaway was, and we will see you in the next episode.